Hi. The double slit experiment shows a photon traveling through two slits, and somehow it creates a wave interference pattern. The light source emanates spherically out, as all light does from a source, but they put a barrel in front of the light source and turn the light on for a very small amount of time. So a small packet or a small burst of a wave of light has been sent out through the barrel. But how, even then, would it not act like a marble, like a photon, which has been predicted to exist? If it is simply a small packet, it should behave exactly the same way, and yet it still results in a wave pattern on the detection wall. I'm going to explain to you why I think photons do not exist and why probability fields are nonsense. And also explain to you how a single small packet wave can get through both of these slits, come through the other side, and create a wave interference pattern on this wall. The speed of light is said to be around 1 billion kilometers an hour, or 300,000 kilometers per second, or 300 million meters per second in scientific units. But I'm here to tell you that I think the speed of light is not limited by itself, but by the fabric of space-time, what was once called the ether, but was disproven, apparently, years ago in a Michelson-Morley experiment or something. Nevertheless, I'm still open to the idea that the fabric of space-time defines what we call our universe, and to pass through it is to exit our universe and go into the void. I'd also like to suggest to you that the universe is expanding because the parent universe that was in existence before the universe we're living in came about had a black hole. It filled with all the junk and stars and galaxies and sucked in until it was so big that the universe had a giant black hole sticking out of it like a water balloon, really tugging on everything in the space-time fabric that would curve the space-time fabric in what would be considered to be gravity, which some people call a force, but I say that is not a force. It is simply an observation of the curvature of the space-time fabric. And eventually this smooth pulling down of everything of this fabric, because the fabric of space-time is a substance, and it ripped. And so when it tore, this balloon in here held all this junk in here, and it exploded into a new bubble inside the void. And the void has properties also, and it's contained within the void. So the original universe is big like this, then it had a black hole which exploded in, and this other universe was created in a big bang of matter once that was highly compressed inside the black hole of this original universe, squeezed in by the fabric because it was being really stretched, and then all of a sudden, bang, this other universe expanded outwards, and that's where we now live, inside this sub-child universe of this parent universe. This area where the black hole was, where the Big Bang occurred, is now a stable rift between the original large universe and the smaller child universe in which we live now. The universe we're living in is expanding because this large universe is equalizing into this expanding tear that is giving us its matter and more of its fabric, I guess, as it expands. To consider how to escape through a tear in our universe, the fabric, it's important to remember that at the tip of my finger here and anywhere in this universe and the other parent universe, there is another dimension that human brains cannot imagine clearly. We can only use analogies by going back down to 2D and upgrading to 3D. So for example, the surface of this paper can be considered 2D. I cannot, for example, draw in midair with this pen. This pen is only allowed to live on the page or on this flat surface, because trying to draw in midair with this pen, it's not something it's able to do. But the void is out here. If we consider this flat surface to be our universe, then everything out here is something that we are unable to access unless we travel very fast, like light. Now, light's considered by many to be limited to 300,000 kilometers per second, but 1 billion kilometers an hour. But I am hypothesizing that light is not limiting itself from going further, but rather the fabric of space-time in particular densities, in fact in all the densities we've ever measured the speed of light, has had a density that keeps light from going faster than that speed. But I theorize that light can travel faster than that speed when it first emerges from a light source. When it first comes out of a light bulb, boom, it travels faster than the surface tension of the fabric of space-time and exits our universe. The surface tension of the fabric is keeping light and all matter we see inside the universe. But very fast, small things can penetrate out of the universe skin to the exterior of the universe. This is reality, like right here in front of me. Here's a picture of the light bulb emanating its light waves through a little funnel, through the barrel, either before there or after here. This light, boom, exits into the unseen void beyond the universe, out of this page in 2 dimensions for the sake of an analogy, and out into, if time is the 4th dimension, then into the 5th dimension, outwards. And because of its speed, it is able to pass through, and its size potentially, it's able to pass through without creating any visible rifts. And even if the rifts were visible, they'd be sealed up by the time the universe expands to catch back up. Because what my theory is that this small dot of light that's coming out of a barrel in this experiment starts off small, but by the time we see it, it has already traveled millions of kilometers out into the void. And what happens when light is shone on the moon, even a laser? It's 1 kilometer across in a big circle. So this light has time out in the void to expand and cone out. This is the coning out of light wave after 1 million kilometers in the void. The universe is too slow at this point to catch it. Potentially the void is greasy and slows the light down. Or the universe just catches up to part of the light and never catches the rest. Maybe the light doesn't dissipate, and all of the external parts are surrounded by lights and different bits of energy and neutrinos and things outside of our universe, or at all times, and the universe expands and bumps into them, and then they just pop into existence in our fabric as the fabric hits them while passing and growing through the void. Or the universe is actually moving in a path around in the void. Could even be passing through parts where it's been before and picking up trace elements of matter or substances or radiation that it left in its wake in the last rotation, in the case of potentially a universe that's sort of traveling around on a track or some path inside the void. The light wave, not a photon. I'm saying the photons don't exist. It's just a wave, because we don't want a wave-particle duality here. We simply want a simple explanation that makes actual observational sense. The probability field theory is like a fairy tale, right? It's simply saying it's magic. Let's not even bother. Anybody who says they understand quantum physics doesn't understand quantum physics. But this is my guess at how quantum physics works. The light expands. It's traveled into the future as far as we're concerned. We're in the past here because the universe has not yet expanded to go to where the light is, which is out here in the future. Future is a location, you see. Future is a location. Now, the universe expands to catch up. It coincides with this now much larger round piece of light. Okay? The large piece of light, which is round and big, not a small dot anymore, as you'd expect from a barrel that's only this far away, but rather it's now travelled 1 million kilometres between there and there. It's travelled 1 million kilometres, okay? And now it's going through, let's just say, the brightest peak of it is able to penetrate through both of these slits. And of course it creates a wave interference pattern here and is seen on the detection wall here. Now my estimates of 1 million kilometres and the speed of doubling the speed of light to 2 billion kilometres an hour instead of 1 billion kilometres an hour, which is the speed of light that we recognise in our observations here in this density of space, are just simply obviously estimates from me, but it shows you that I'm saying that the speed of light is definitely higher than 300,000 kilometers per second. An unknown amount higher. But I'm saying that the surface tension of the fabric of space-time, after a certain point, stops it from going faster. Now, from our perspective, we do not see any difference between the light being fired out of this hole and landing here, because it's going into the future, and in its experience it could have spent, an entire second or even 1,000 years traveling off into the cosmos, beyond the boundaries of what we are able to see. The calculations could be done more correctly if you could calculate what these calculations could be if we assume that the speed limit of the fabric of space-time is actually the expansion rate of the universe, but I'm not sure if they correspond correctly. So those numbers would need to be dealt with by somebody who's even more curious about my theory than I am, because if I am wasting my time on this theory, then I don't want to go into it that mathematically. At any rate, what I'm saying is we would not notice if this light had travelled for thousands of years, because in the next instant for us, the light is hitting this wall. The exit to this reality, this universe, space-time, is in every pinpoint of space whether in a vacuum or right on the tip of your finger. Imagine this piece of paper is the universe, and this dot is light emerging from its source. Light spherically emanates as a sphere in 3 dimensions, which we'll say is limited to this piece of paper as a 2D analogy. Light travels so fast that it breaches the surface tension of all known space-time densities. Let me just mention that I kind of assume that, given that I think that space-time is a substance, that I think that in gravitational wells or stretching areas such as black holes, the speed of light is different there. The density of the space-time should be thinner, like chewing gum being stretched. As simple to understand as that. Let's just consider the universe to be made up of objects sitting in something similar to thin chewing gum, or I've heard some people say molasses. But it can be stretched, okay? And when it's stretched, light can travel faster. Or the speed limit of light is not the same. The light simply follows where space-time allows it to go, the fabric of space-time, as evidenced by looking at the sun during an eclipse and seeing stars that are supposed to be behind the sun coming around the edge of the sun, because the light from behind the stars is able to come around and towards our eyes, to our retinas, which is how we know light exists. So let's say that dot can grow spherically faster than this paper can stop it, and it exits the universe. The void, our parent universe, the Big Bang gate, where the Big Bang occurred, where there was a breaking of the previously a black hole, now a stable tear. This is our sub-universe. And I just marked this as the location where that double slit experiment is taking place on Earth. And this is the emanating light, which is exceeding the surface tension required speed to break through the escape velocity required for the space-time fabric, and going off into the void, which I think has a few different things happening in it that are causing small parts of radiation and matter to spontaneously appear in even the vacuum of space, where there are no stars around or anything. If we examine a cubic centimeter of vacuum of space, things are popping in and out of existence. Potentially because we are passing through the void, or expanding in the void, or moving through the void and running into things, and then hitting the fabric of space-time, which is the outside wall, the skin of our universe. Now, when you think of a skin, I've tried to use an analogy to tell you what fifth dimensionally kind of means. But let's imagine there's a skin around everything tiny. But if you exit out of it, you're in the void. It might be easier to envisage that every single atom and smaller is bubble wrapped, and all you have to do is escape out of that bubble and you're in amongst all these other bubbles, and then you don't have to think fifth dimensionally, you can just think of it as 3-dimensionally. So the tip of my fingernail there has a little atom broken down into a quark or something, and down into a string maybe, and then around that string or whatever is a bubble of space-time fabric potentially, and all my little atom there needs to do to get out of this universe is just get out of that bubble wrap, and it's now in the void, but it's probably surrounded by all these other ones for the sake of being able to draw. And so you can envisage that this entire thing is in 3D, which is much easier for us to understand. So once it's in the void, it's not inside the bubble wrap, and realistically, if it were to go back inside the universe, it would normally just go back straight back in to the bubble wrap from whence it came, but potentially it could zigzag and move its way around through this basically kids' playground of plastic balls and go and reappear somewhere else. And because it's in the void, time is not moving for anybody in any of the glad bubble wrap, right? So if it travels for 10,000 years and then appears in, a long way away in some other kid's playground on the other side of the universe, here in this one, it goes there and lands in there instead, then it will have traveled as far as this universe is concerned. For all the bubble wrap atoms for our reality, it will have instantaneously traveled there. You understand? But my drawing here keeps things nice and big, so we can just say it's fifth dimensional, but that analogy there seems apt, so that we can envisage something breaking through and out of this universe at any particular pinpoint in space. And it could be that way rather than that way, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm guessing all of this. Of course. That's a light sphere. Void causes deceleration. So I don't know why the void's causing deceleration. That would make sense as well if the light has to bounce around between all these bubble wrapped strings. Light leaves the universe, but our universe is equalizing in size to our, that needs a cue, in size to our parent universe, so our universe is expanding. And I've used that as the excuse in the version that I thought of 5 minutes ago when I decided this was the way it worked. But now I think this might actually be the way it works. The end, I guess. At any rate, that is my alternative to the very mystical sounding probability field theory, which is just like abracadabra, strange things happened, don't even bother trying to explain it, it's too hard to understand. I fully credit myself with this theory. Peace out.